Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to start with a little bit of an art retrospective, then asana, then cantando. So, first, I'm in this place of recognizing that the shala has entered a new phase of its expression. I want to rewind for a minute to 2009. I arrived here on the winter solstice of that year in a state of being deeply lost and not wanting to be in the Midwest at all. Los Angeles was my home. It was where my community was. And yet I had to make a choice. And it's only because I made the choice into the unknown that any of this came into being. But the first couple of years were awful in terms of the lack of purpose and the lack of any sort of clarity. And where I got clarity was the commitment. It wasn't even a commitment, it was just the acceptance that I would just do my practice. And I was told back in LA, in Michigan, no one will understand Ashtanga yoga. They won't. It's too cold. They're too traditional. Indeed, we are very grounded and practical people. We're not looking to perform anything. And there's a sincerity that was interpreted from that other life world as just not getting it. And when I started teaching, it was in a situation where I was going to be gone a lot for study in India. And for my own clarity and for the clarity of the new practitioners, even though we were in this gorgeous space, because all spaces should always be gorgeous because they shape your mind and it's important to surround yourself in beauty. I didn't want anybody to fetishize the beauty of this space as like, oh, I have to be there to do my thing. And so I was always just like, do your thing. And I sent people pictures of my practice space in the laundry room, in the basement, on the ranch in Montana, on grimy linoleum floors next to my parents are preppers. So next to part of their food stash. Oh, yes. And I was like, this is practice, just practice. And then we started to call them runways. I would be like, show me the crazy place you did your practice. Don't make a thing of this. Just throw your mat down, get on the runway, and stop making a lot of attention about the material conditions and do your practice. So that led to back in the early internet when like internet was like really nice and beautiful and not gamified. This turned into like this movement with people like all over the place of runways. So there were those of us in this community that were sharing our runways in Facebook when Facebook was wonderful. Uh, and then there came to be all these other people who would see those. And so a book designer named Laura was like, I'm going to make this into art. And so this was like the first turning of the wheel of like Ashtanga art on the internet. And this is the key to all the people who and places from where the runways were thrown down. And there's a bunch of us. I put the names of us on it, but it's like all these people. That said, it's a ton of Christine, Jade, who now lives in China, Kasha, who now lives in Boston, Tova in DC. There's a bunch of Angelas. There's a bunch of Yvonnes. So anyway, this is the key, and this is the original artwork that has 252 runways, and it just kept going. Yeah. So check this out. This is circa 2010. And then somebody got me the actual poster and the key, and I just taped them up on our utility closet because this was never going to be a place where we put energy decoration. There's never going to be an altar because you don't put people on pedestals, because Dominic told me not to. He knew what Patabi Joyce had done. If you don't know, I'll make sure you get that memo. But he saw a crisis in authoritarianism coming. He said, no altars, Angela. And so when people found out that Pattabhi Jois had inappropriately touched his students, we never had to go through any kind of crisis around taking down an altar, for God's sake. Like, this is what humans do. It's not even Pattabhi Jois. Humans put someone up on a pedestal and then take them down with glee. This is a thing in like the primordial human nature. And we just sidestep that whole process. And I hope that we're sidestepping it here too. I hope I'm doing a good enough job of like, yes, there's transference in all of our relationships, but hopefully not so much that for your own growth, you have to put me up and tear me down, right? Because that's actually part of the unconscious process of growth if we're not careful. So we never had any decor in part because of that. And then we kept going like that. And 10 years later, COVID happened. And there was this next turning of the wheel. I guess that was the first wheel. And then it turned again, and we were in COVID, and everything got a little entropic. And one day, this arrived in my mailbox. And it, instead of just practice, it says, keep practicing. And it was Kristen's rendering. Nobody was supposed to actually take artistic credit for anything in those days. I always said all my content is, I'm just the curator. I'm the crowdsourcer. And so you all crowdsourced this artwork. And it's a whole bunch of Zoom windows. So it's no longer runways. They're still runways, right? But they're in Zoom windows. And it's all of you. And baby Winnie when she was a puppy, and so many other animals that are there. Wow, yes. So in any case, I'm gonna, now that the Shala is entering a third era. COVID was this era where, actually we weren't here, right? This was just a memory. This is just the concept. And, having to pay the rent was its own thing. And I think most of you know the lease is in my name personally. Because yes. So the landlords were like, yeah, the only asset I have is my house. They're like, yeah, well, you will lose your home if you cannot pay the rent. So that was the COVID era and how we related to space in those times. And then we came back, and the landlords very generously took down the drop ceiling. We would have been the only ones who actually did pay the rent. And so we got the thing I'd always wanted, which was acoustics. And now, in the time since Sharatji has died, the first year was a year of mourning. I knew what was going to happen, and I didn't make moves. I just held the feeling. Because if we make moves while there's a lot of feeling, or without like even rituals of grieving, where does all that sad go? I don't think you had a lot of sad, but the community did, of the people who had like deep connections with him. And that impulse to act and do and do and do is probably repressive, right? It's just probably, if you think about the meaning of ritual and structure, it's probably not the move. And it was certainly what the Indian tradition says you absolutely do not do in the year after a major loss. For an entire year, you stay with the loss. And then I went to India for the Vaikuntha Samaradhanya on November 2nd. And when I came back in December, we've been moving forward again, actually putting things up on the walls. So I'm going back to the retrospective of our art and putting things on the wall, and more is coming. Because I really think our job going forward is to serve as a home for not just ourselves, but the broader community. And so this summer, there are going to be people coming who are not just my students. This has just been a place for my work for 16 years. And everyone here, it's because we have a really ongoing like transformative relationship that we're committed to. And I don't want to like quadruple that number. It doesn't make sense. But I do, we have come to be this place where the Midwest understands Ashtanga like extremely well. I think better than in a lot of places. This is actually an enduring institution. And now one of the oldest and one of the most predictable. We have been open every day, except for moon days, for 16 years. And we have a lot to give. So when guests come, you prepare for the guests. And I'm expressing that in physical form right now. I'm also bringing back into the shala a whole lot of objects, gifts from you, like beautiful things that have been at home in my practice space. And you'll see more of them start to repopulate and come back into the space. That because I was committed to the minimalism of just practice, always stayed at home. And one of those items from Pat Dean, this is hilarious. There's so many funny things that you're going to start to see, is the Bunda sheep. I think, unless this is from you, Kelly, you didn't manifest Bunda sheep. This is from Pat Dean. Okay, so this is a sheep who has their joints stable. And now I'm going to push the button on the bottom of Bunda sheep. And this is a sheep with no bundas. Right? And then the sheep's going to get his bundas back. Okay. And the reason this came into being is long ago, we did this party trick about bundas. And we're going to do it again. I'm going to bring this back. Okay. Baaaaaandas, says Jesse. Thank you. Okay. Sarah, Eva, Kyle, Kelly, come. Okay. Let's make sure you can see what's going on. Oh, let me make this big. Okay. So I want you to use only your fingertips. And two people are going to be on my calves, and two people are going to be on my upper arms. And I'm going to be really floppy. Lift me up with only your fingers. Yeah, do it. Lift me off the floor. Use your fingers. No, you have to try. Put your fingers where my arms are. You have to try. Okay, lift my body. Okay, so now I have 64 ounces of water in my body, and I'm going to take my thing into the bathroom. I'm going to have okay, now can you hear me again? We good? Okay. So I'm going to start from the arches of my feet. And I'm going to lift across that surface. Okay. Now I'm going to stabilize around my knee joints. Now, the big one, the cervix is going to come up. If you don't have a cervix, you have a prostate. Same. Okay. Now, low belly, Uddiyana Bandha, stabilizing. Okay. Now, from the armpits, I'm going to find a Bandha. I'm going to suck that in. I can still breathe, notice. This is like a light stabilization around every joint complex. Bandhas aren't physical, except they also are physical, right? They're also this expression of stabilization around every joint complex, right? Now, I'm going to lift up the hyoid bone, this floating bone in the throat. I'm going to drop that back and up, and the soft palate's going to fly up the same way the arch is flying up and the dome of the pelvic floor is flying up. My soft palate's going to go. And there's actually a structure inside of the brain around the ventricles that I can vacuum. Okay, now let's see what's possible. Lift me.
Too easy.
Too easy. You're not even really working, right? And set me back down. Party tricks that we forgot for a really long time. Thank you very much. Okay, so I don't want to do all the bandhas. I want to do the ones from the arch of the foot up to the middle thigh. In my retrospective of finding our old art, I've also found so many notes and so many things that I said usefully and then forgot to say for like the last 6 years. And one of them is that we can understand the musculoskeletal system like a kind of tensegrity sculpture. You know what a tensegrity sculpture is? It's one of these, who's the guy who made the geodesic domes? Bucky Fuller, right? He said, like, you can make tensegrity sculpture where it's kind of like you think of pickup sticks surrounded by, what are those, Lincoln Logs? Surrounded by rubber bands that hold them in place into an upward structure. Then it's actually the reciprocal tension inside the rubber bands that holds it together. So I want you to think of the mid thigh to the foot as some expression of that kind of tensegrity that holds the structure upright. Because really, this whole bipedalism thing doesn't make sense otherwise. So the area of special attention now to save your knees and ankles in this moment when there's an increase in the inflammation in our systems is this one. The left-right action of the ankle joint that only works and stabilizes if you've got your foot bandha, the three arches of the feet, the three intersecting arches of the feet engaged. Stand up, please. So the foot is like a rudder. You know, a rudder moving through water is like, depending on where the rudder's actually established, that's going to completely affect the direction of movement, okay? So what I want to do is just for a moment, we're going to go left and right, swing way, way, way to one side, way to one side. Notice the action of your feet. And then way, way, way to the other side. Again. Keep the knees straight. Okay, so you have so much range of motion in your ankles. This is only happening in the ankles, right? Okay, now keep doing that action, that sway. Try to keep the whole foot on the floor while you're doing it. And I want to notice what's happening to the knee joint while you're at it. Okay, so if you have no bandhas in your feet, this action is probably going to impact the inner knees in a sort of grinding manner. And what I'm seeing is all of you have your bandhas established just by watching me do mine. And so just notice that as you sway, though, there's still a differential impact of that movement in your knee joint. Is that tracking? So what I want to do today is start to bring this area from the middle thighs down into the forefront of awareness and see how that lands in your practices for the next couple of months. But before we do that, I want to take a sidebar and remind us all that there are two kinds of practitioners. And most of us are not one of them. Most of us are somewhere on the spectrum between, because every binary is a spectrum. The two kinds of practitioners are the ones who are listening to their breath while they're practicing and the ones who are not. Those who are in the listening category or closer to it are the ones who are developing insight through the practice. The listening to the breath is training your senses, and it is the development of, again, let's go back to 2010. We talked about it all the time, metacognition. If you are not listening to the breath, what happens is what Patanjali talks about at the very opening of the Yoga Sutras. We think we are our thoughts. Listening to the breath is this insight tool so that if you are completely devoted to that listening, the inevitability of thoughts coming up will be something that, from a witness standpoint, this is the birth of the witness, metacognition, thinking about thinking. We can notice the presence and the impermanent nature of the thought because there's always this other moving process that we're actually attended to. What happens then is people identify with the breath, and then you have to deconstruct that, and that's a whole thing. That's absolutely an issue. But for now, the first level, the first practice of insight, and the thing that creates yoga in people is this listening to the breath. And I say this because there's so many people who never find it. It's really an issue. And it happens very often with too much focus on the physical, too much focus on the technique, without recognizing that what we are doing is primarily training the consciousness, or even creating the conditions for the consciousness to move towards a more enlightened state. So please do not let this be any kind of distraction from this far more important work of learning to stabilize the metacognitive training. This is the Jedi mind training. This is Jedi mind training. And there are so many people who just haven't joined the order. So moving on. Okay. I want to talk about this awareness of the bandhas from the mid-thigh down and see how it lands in your practice over the next 2 months without stopping listening to the breath. Okay. So this dimension of left and right impacts your experience in the knees and ramifies all the way up in ways that I'm not even going to touch on today. Shratji used to have this issue in like the middle period of his shala. When we went from, in 2009, it was like a small group of weirdos. We were all weirdos. Try to be as weird as you can, like be yourself, right? Like freaks. We were freaks in like 2010, 11, 12, 13. And then what he got was this institutionalization of his method where people came and they wanted to be authorized. They want authorization papers. And so there was this influx of professional yoga teachers coming for that. And it was less of a relational setting. And that new influx, as things exploded, you had a lot of people who would try to imitate him in superficial ways. And one was he had this hilarious weird walk where he would kick the heels out. It was so good. It was so good. Each step was initiated from a heel kick. And he would keep his low back kind of stable. He had some pain in the low back, so this heel kick happened. And he also had like just these adorable kind of spindly legs. And this is how we like hung out on them. And he also, remember, was always closing his anus, which if you have painful sex or you're planning to deliver children out of your vagina or your digestion isn't perfect, please consider that relaxing your anus will really, really address those things, right? But he was holding his anus closed and he was kicking his heels out. And it was the cutest thing. And then you would get these people from every different country in the world trying to do that. There's nobody else who naturally walks that way. So he had this whole phase of talking about your walking style. And that trained me to really watch people's walking style. And this is a thing in Ayurveda. Intake begins when you first encounter a person and you watch how they move into the space. You watch how they make their appointment. You watch how they make their first connections with people. That's intake. Intake isn't all the things they tell you, it's their walking style. And so I began in that era when he started talking about walking style, saying specifically, please don't imitate my walking style. Like it was cringe. And he was just like, imitate my path, which is this is straight Bhagavad Gita. There's so many teachings about how you can only walk your own path, nobody else's. And so he would just say, like, everyone has their own walking style, and it's true. And for a teacher, so much of learning the walking style is also noticing, like, how, like he was holding his bandhas. He's like the on the most physical level, right? But how do your bandhas, are they present, and are they affecting your walking style? So this is kind of what I'm going for, but I want to study it in this context, in your asanas. And in the very end of this inquiry, my question is, does some of this awareness help you feel better in your knee joints? So that in your walking style, there's no grinding, especially in the meniscus, this beautiful little layer of cartilage inside of the knee. And the many of us who have maybe some instability in the tendons and ligaments around the knees, are we finding a way to hold that with tensegrity, not integrity, but tensegrity, in a way that protects your joints long term? Because the joints are the first place that inflammation is going to land when the weather is weird or our activity is suboptimal. Okay. So for a minute, try to walk without thinking about it. Take a spin around the room in your natural walking style. Yeah, everybody at home, take a walk. It could be like a tiny walk. And I just want to know, there's this beautiful essay by Susan Sontag. I hope you all read Sontag, called Where the Stress Falls. I just want to know where the stress falls. And noting that we've been bringing awareness to the rudder action of the foot. Now, as you continue your walk, can you try to press off with both the outer and inner foot? So both the baby toe and the big toe. Can you take another spin? And just notice, as you see where your stress falls in your gait, can you also press down the baby toe as much as you press down the base of the big toe? Great. We're going to integrate this into asana in a minute. Great. Stop where you are, and everybody come down and physically touch the outer right shin. Okay. Now, physically, you can do Utthita Hasta, you can do this. Touch the inner right arch. And I want to connect these two structures, outer right shin, inner right arch. And let's go to the other side. Outer left shin, inner left arch. You got 3 arches here. We're going for the big old medial arch. Okay. Now, back to your spin around the room. And I want to get a little bit more lift. We're going to put a little spring in your step. And it's wonderful. You're going to feel the arch fly up because it's a bandha, right? Uddiyana bandha means like the flying up, hanging valley kind of, right? So we're going to start the flying up action from the arch, and it's going to impact an engagement of the outer shin. You can even do a little hop with your walk. So now the base of the big toe and the base of the baby toe are both grounding. I know, please don't make this your permanent walking style. But what I'm going for is there's a tendon and there's some musculature on the outside of the shin, and I want to get them really involved in the walk as a way to integrate the lift of the arch of the foot. Okay? Now, Parshva Konasana. If you don't know Parshva Konasana, you need to know. You actually do know it. Take the right side. And what I want to, yeah, Parsvaganasana. And it's the left foot that I want to attend to. Can you integrate that sense of the outside, inside of the foot? So, particularly the rudder action of pressing the outside of the foot down. Can that also lift the arch, like the bunda that it is, the medial arch of the left foot? And now the outer left shin is stabilizing you. Okay. Come back to the other side. Inhale. This is definitely the easiest place to find it in my experience. Okay, now Trikonasana. Come up, take a narrower stance. Okay. The left foot, find the angle of the left foot that's going to help you. We're going to go to the right side. The angle of the left foot that's going to help you feel the outer left shin, the inner left arch, and come down. Do not squeeze your toes. Actually, do squeeze your toes. Squeeze them. That's wrong. Now unsqueeze your toes and use the arch of the left foot for your stability. So you have a bunda. Okay. And what I'm seeing is that everybody, the center of your kneecap is tracking over your second toe, which for most knees is really nice. Inhale, come up. Did that make sense? Okay. Let's go to the left side. So it's easy to really have an experience of the left side body here, which is correct. But I'm drawing the awareness for now into the stabilization of the posture, which is the outer right shin, the inner right arch of the foot, and the consequent stabilization of the kneecap in space. Come up. Now I'm going to add another layer of technique. Good. Samastitihi is fine. Most of you have already installed eyeballs in the center of your kneecaps, but just in case you haven't, this is actually one of the heuristics I use for. I don't analyze anybody's musculoskeletal system. I just try to have a holistic feeling sense of them. But that holistic understanding also is anchored with this idea that you all have a center of your kneecap. And I like to, in each case of your kneecaps, isn't it amazing you all got two of them? There's a little eye right in the center of your kneecap. And so as I come to feel and understand your walking style as you move into the room, one of the easy ways to anchor that real early, once I'm kind of understanding like how is the rudder of the foot guiding the action, is where are the eyes of the knees pointing. You do know that I have really crazy musculoskeletal structure. You know this intuitively, but I'm just going to show you. Okay. So this is where I started in my musculoskeletal structure. Grew up riding horses, but also it's in the family lineage. And this is why my medial meniscus got really frayed. Okay. Because there's so much of the emphasis on the outer foot, and the eyes of the kneecaps are looking but to the outer corners of any room. That's not a problem. But over time, in 2011, I believe, I had this crazy experience in Samastitihi where I was like, wait a minute, I feel my knees touching. How is that even a thing? How is that even possible? I had changed yoga had changed the bones. Bones are alive. They change slowly, but certainly yoga had changed the bone structure. So this is now what the normal muscular skeletal system looks like, right? For all of you, come back to your regular way of standing. I know like listening to this makes you adjust towards tensegrity, but now I just want you to come down and touch the eyes of your kneecaps and notice, where are those eyes looking? There's no right or wrong on this. All of you have a little bit more symmetry than I would naturally. Okay. And now I want to see if you can just, as if the gaze is falling way out there in space, can you start to orient the eyes of the knees in a way that's just really deliberate based on the bandha of the foot and the stabilization of your outer shin. This is actually what matters. This is the reason I decided to open up and give language on this, is that if the kneecap is not stable and tracking with each step, this can be the beginning of knee pain. And I say this not because I have any education whatsoever in medicine, except for the education is from yoga medicine, right? And from the noticing. And this is just a background pattern in my pattern recognition structures from 16 years of this that is the case. So now, Prasarita Padottanasana A. Step to your right. Stabilize the outer foot and the base of the big toe. Let the arches fly. Let them fly. Okay. And as you do that, you're probably going to feel the outer shin really stabilize. And notice then, come down again, touch your kneecaps. Okay. Probably the kneecaps are not looking wide. Right? What happens as a result of this is the kneecaps tend to probably draw in just a little bit. They don't float wide, right? They don't have to be super in. Everybody is so unique. But now I want to take Prasarita Padottanasana with that awareness of everything from the foot to the arch of the foot to the shins to the kneecaps, and put your hands on the ground. And what I'm going here for, above all, is a feeling of bandha. So bandha is not physical except for the ways that it is. But really, there's also, bandha is a training of the consciousness, right? So in theory, 4 of us could come around and simply place a light lift, probably at your shoulders and at your waist, to just lift you off the ground, because there's that tensegrity going on in the joint structures. Nice. If you're having an experience that is worthy here, maybe take another variation, and I'll just let this settle. So nice. So nice. And that's everything I have to say. So now let's iterate. Sit down. Ardha Baddha Padma Paschimottanasana. Here's my recommendation. For a lot of practitioners, the outer ankle becomes overly mobile. And it happens, can y'all see me basically? It happens starting in this, right? So this starts to sickle, then we come down, the hips opening, but at the cost of this stabilization of the ankle. So here's what I'm going to suggest to integrate all these parts. Arch, the tensegrity of the foot, and all of this just remaining stable, so that when you go into lotus position, it's not impacting the knee joint. This is the takeaway, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to point through the toe and notice, come back to the paddle action of the foot. Ooh, Charlie horse. Yeah. Okay, more magnesium. Then we're going to take the kneecap wide, keep the outer shin engaged, keep pointing through the toe, externally rotate the hip joint, drop the knee. And when you come into your half lotus now, what's not going to happen is you're not going to flop the outer ankle. Oh, I'm changing your life, man, aren't I? Yeah. Okay. Because there's bandhas in your foot now, right? It's really nice because over time, what happens is the side of the foot starts to impact the colon, right? Other side. Point through the toe. Keep your bandhas at your foot. Outer shin is stable. Then externally rotate the left hip joint. Place the foot, keep the tensegrity, integrity of the ankle. And if you want to fold, like however you want to interpret this, That's the move. Okay. And then just for experiment's sake, what I'm seeing is this opportunity to be the no bandha sheep right now. Just let the ankle flop. Good. Let the outer shin flop. Forget that you have prostate slash cervix, or maybe both. Many people are born with, all the parts, right? And then come up. What is the opposite foot bandha doing? I don't know. You tell me later. For me, I remain in a state of tensegrity in the other leg too. But some people just need to flop if the work in their practice is deep relaxation. For most of us, I would say keep some engagement. Gwen asked, in Ardha what should the straight leg surfaces and actions be like? And I would say roughly the same. But for some people, they just need to totally let go and do nothing. That's very few of us. Okay. So now, this is the fun one. Okay. We're going to do one more after that, and then we're done. Okay. So I'm not even going to tell you what to do. I just want you to have an experience where you go through, stabilize the outer ankle, lift the arch of the bent leg foot. Okay. Notice where your kneecap is pointed. Yeah, right? It's all based in what you're doing on the bent leg side of the posture. And that's, if you got it on the right side, that's the right side of the posture, right? This is not, as you know, this is not a hamstring stretch. Let's do the other side. Ooh, I'm definitely going to need to attend to the magnesium. I think I'm not the only one, right? That's what those little cramps mean. Okay. So outer foot, outer shin, inner foot, inner arch, kneecap. That is probably your interpretation of the posture that puts you in this sense of integration and tensegrity, as long as you are also listening to the breath. It's a lot. Practice is a lot. It holds you really present because it's a lot. Last one. The posture formerly known as upward facing dog. Actually, let's do it. Let's check in really quick in the posture formerly known as downward facing dog, just to prime the rudder, because it's really easy to have no foot bandha in shots. Okay. So remember, arches, base of the big and little toe, shin, stabilization of the outer shin in particular. Okay. Now, pancha. This is where things really start to happen once you get your ankles stable. So I don't know. How do you get the pancha from here? Make your way. Good. Okay. So now I want you to look over one of your shoulders. Notice what your feet are doing. Take the other view. Okay. For a lot of us, the outer foot is really floating here. So if you can ground the outer foot in pancha, usually all these things come online. And also your sacrum starts to move forward, which is intermediate work. Yeah, right? Can you feel that? It's just the core correlative of all this stuff that we're looking at that should be landing when we're standing. Comments or questions? That's my dissertation. Whoa, no questions, no comments. Oh, you want to chat? Oh, Ashley. Okay. Ardha. Oh, you want to do Ekapada? We're in Ardha. Okay, the way that Ashley has been finding Ardha is coming all the way around. We're kind of in a phase where it's really landing. flexing the foot, so bringing, like shortening the front of the shin bone to catch. I love it. And then I would say that that probably is a unique expression of everything we've been talking about with the bandhas of the foot. It just doesn't look the same as the shapes we've been making. But I think for a lot of people, that helps the posture to land, not in the joints, in the consciousness, in the muscular system, in a way that's pretty stable. I would say, actually, if you start here, then the move is to slowly, without letting the ankle sickle at all, maybe over years, let things come to straight. Okay. Many of you know this already, so I don't want to open this door, but I'm just going to reinforce the thing that many of you know. This action of flexing and pointing the ankle, always in any action in yoga, follow it back to your spine. If we follow this back to the spine, where we're landing is the big old nerves that come off the sciatic nerve and others that feed in here through the legs. And this is an expression of the longest nerves. So this is intermediate work. Intermediate is called, in Sanskrit, Nadi Shodhana. So there's something we're directly addressing the nervous system in Nadi Shodhana. And so this isn't even a nerve in yoga anatomy. This is an energy channel, okay, that is in one position here and in one position here, right? If I ever say closed spine, what I mean is toes point. We had most of you know this also, but in case, because I'm in the retrospective moment, you didn't hear this story. My friend Richard from Vancouver, at the end of a 3-year season, once asked, Shrat, why have you been telling me to close spine for the last 3 months? Because he'd be here, as one does. This was his Udita hospital. And Shratji would be like, close spine, close spine. And the rest of us were hearing toes point. And Richard was hearing close spine. So he thought he was following the instructions. So it's a good thing he asked for clarity. Okay. Carrie. Yes, Pancha. Yes, yes. So in both Pancha and Shat, I would say yes. The posture formerly known as down dog is a really nice one to just notice what is your default with the feet, and can you bring the feet into tensegrity, which is probably just going to be this kind of like putting on your socks, compression socks. Okay. So if you put on compression socks in this posture, it's probably not going to be one of these, probably going to be one of these, right? So then integrating, it's probably not going to be this, probably going to be more like that. Okay. I'm satisfied. Yes. Tracking. So this is going to be the end. Tracking of the kneecaps and shut. Oh yeah, there's chai. Go get chai. Bring in the chai. Oh yeah, go get chai. Bring in the chai. Don't leave without chai. Okay. I suggest for most of you, this is really personal. For the people who have integrated, for the walking style that is very low impact in the joints, usually the way that expresses in shot is a slight inward movement of the kneecaps. Do you want to try that? Okay. And that is, you're not actually starting that action from the awareness of the kneecaps. You're starting from the lift of the arch, the stabilization of the whole foot across the base of the toes, the activation of the tissues on the outer shin. And do you notice that that tracks your knee probably just the littlest bit in? So the eyes of the knee, the gaze probably meets maybe at the front of your mat. maybe between your hands. Does that track? Did you notice that when you found that, there was a new experience of Uddiyana Bandha? Can you do it just one more time? Do all of those actions. And what happens in your prostate, cervix, low belly? If you have ovaries, what happens around your ovaries? What happens around your tail? I think that's why the legs tend to express in that way. Okay. I feel like a few lights just came on. Great. Sarah, Tembi. This question of kneecaps pull up. This is Iyengar method. Mr. Iyengar. No. It's good. Mr. Iyengar always said kneecaps up. Is that in also the hot yoga? Do they say kneecaps up? Lock the knee. Oh my God. Goodbye, Bikram Chaudhry, you crazy man. Oh my God. No, don't do that. Uh, but the lifting of the kneecaps, I can see wisdom in that. Yeah. That, I mean, you have your quads are like 200 IQ. They are, your quads are so intelligent. Um, and that may be specific to that movement clarity you have. But Sarah, how about just like not too tight, not too loose? Not too tight, not too loose? Yeah, yes, both. Yeah, I think for you, you need rectus femoris mostly, which would be that inner quad to just be your guide. So just allow all these things we just dropped into your system. The next thing that happens from arch, shin, this is just for the cyclist. Arch, shin, then rectus femoris is the next step. Then right into your cervix. Okay. Can we be done? Oh, no, Carrie. Oh no, I'm just playing with language. Tensegrity is the Bucky Fuller word. And then I haven't said sensegrity, but let's make that one a word. Let's make that a word too, which would be what Sarah has in her rectus femoris as a cyclist, which is just like exquisite movement clarity that includes bandhas. But then I also like to I really think that there's a lot of integrity in integrated mindful movement. And so that's the other word that I've been dropping in here with all of this. Ten, tensegrity, integrity, and also sensegrity, which is just all of those things at the same time. Okay, let's chant. Let me check all of the comments. Anna, I almost always get a cramp in my foot when I point the toes strongly. Yes, it will go away with practice. Lots of practice, but it'll happen. It's also par for the course for what posture? Lagu Vajrasana. Yes, when people first learn Lagu, because it's not going to happen unless you figure these things out. Almost always there's foot or shin cramping, right? But I wonder if this lands for you now, maybe we can preempt that foot and shin cramping in Lagu because it's happening as a result of the lack of this awareness. Okay, chanting. Guess what? These are going to live at the shala. Oh, can we have chai? Who wants to serve chai? And then make a circle. Make a circle, and we'll serve chai. I'm going to keep these at the shala. I don't approve of them whatsoever because I like to learn in relationship. But this is what Jayashree would have us do. So I'm going to distribute them and then you can give them back to me. And if you're at home, I don't know, like maybe somebody can drop a good link in the chat. Oh, okay. You'll just listen past. Please be close. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So regular milk, whole milk or oat milk. They're both very good. I decided that in June and July, there's going to be chanting every morning at 8 a.m. I know most of you have a life and a job, but I thought that if I put it on the schedule solidly for 2 months, then maybe you could make it sometimes. Like call it an appointment that you have to be at. And I'm going to distribute the holding of the space to people who have something to offer in this domain, who have some level of correct knowledge that you can guide others. We're going to have visitors over the course of the summer who have a lot of knowledge. And so I'm just going to allow them to hold the space however they want. And for the locals who really do know this and you can chant the whole thing by heart, I would invite any of you who can chant it by heart to switch in and hold the space, even just one day over the summer at 8 a.m. on a weekday. Any questions about that? The reason I chose this chant for our year is, first of all, Dowie and David and I were deciding our curriculum for the Zion retreat. And David recommended this and said it's a banger. And then it was done. It was decided. It is a banger. It has a buoyant energy. And please don't leave your text on the floor. Put it on something else. This was really a thing for Narasimhan, my philosophy teacher. He said, don't put it on the floor. Don't touch it to your feet. Uh, when David first was offering this in Zion, uh, he noted that a little ways into the shlokas, there's a bit about, it's all about Ganesha. And there's a bit where it says that he protects the world playfully. What else do you do when it is burning and you're not gonna be woe is me all of the time? We have to protect the world, but I would recommend not to take that like as the most grave possible thing. Remind me, who wrote the Vande Gurunam? Thank you so much. This is required knowledge. Who wrote it? Don't be shy. Somebody in the chat. We can't move on until you tell me. Share it in the group or something. I did. It's the teacher that taught me that taught to the teacher that teacher. We have to go back. Yeah, basically. Adi Shankaracharya, thank you, Shivan Burn. So Shankaracharya, this is but he goes back about 800 years. And he wrote a bunch of popular literature in the tradition. And I like Adi Shankaracharya because this isn't religious content by any measure. And because his work was really to like spread cultural meaning and celebration, especially around Ganapati, who's a very modern archetype or deity in the world. He's not ancient, and neither is this material. I think of it as almost coeval with Shakespeare. Shakespeare is not 800 years back there, but it's still kind of contemporary, modern, great world literature. This is not like temple stuff. This is brilliant world literature that you all should know. In the same way that if you didn't catch my Ides of March reference, get thee home and read Julius Caesar. Nobody taught me Shakespeare. I went to like a crazy like farm kid high school. We were reading Shakespeare. You teach this is popular people's literature. What are you gonna do otherwise? Watch like stuff on Netflix? No, like the art that we surround ourselves is what constitutes us. And in Julius Caesar, which is very weird, and all over Shakespeare, there's all this like weird supernatural stuff happening. He's all like Naomi can tell us. It's highly supernatural. Okay, okay, sorry. Don't make you an expert. I'm certainly not. Okay, okay. Okay, well, I'll wait for that. We can talk about Virginia later. Okay. The there's this prophetic person who's like, beware the Ides of March. Go home and read. And it's the 15th of March, and that's when he's going to be stabbed on the floor of the Senate by Brutus. Et tu, Brute. Okay. Go home, do anything but watch Netflix. And in the meantime, we'll start the day with great world literature. Mahaganesha Pancharatna Stotram. I'll just sing the first line first. And I'm not an expert. There are many people who are better at chanting than me. Mudakarata modakam sada vimukti sadhakam kaladharavatam sakam vilasilo anayakaikanayakam minashite padachakam natashubhashunashakam namamitam vinayakam. Let's start with the first verse. If you want to let this land more deeply in your life, listen to Jayatri's rendering, which is gorgeous and fun, and it's a banger. Repeat after me. You can look at your sheets or you can look at my face. Mudakarata modakam. Mudakarata modakam. Sada vimukti sadhakam. Sada vimukti sadhakam. Kaladharavatam sakam. Vilasilokarakshakam. Anayakaikanayakam. Vinashite padaichakam. Natashubhashunashakam. Namamitam vinayakam. That was really good. Now let's just let it settle in the system. Kind of let it get into you. It's like the opening mantra. Just kind of got into you, right? If I started to say it, you would know what came next. That's all I mean to do here. To let it land like the chai. Mudakarata modakam. Mudakarata modakam. Sada vimukti sadhakam. Kaladharavatam sakam. Vilasilokarakshakam. Anayakaikanayakam. Vinashite pataichakam. Natashubhashunashakam. Namamitam vinayakam. Udakarata modakam. Sada vimukti sadhakam. Kaladharavatam sakam. Vilasilokarakshakam. अनायकैकनायकम् विनाशिते पदैत्यकम् शुभाशुनाशकम् नमामि तं विनायकम्. All right, challenge round. Mudakarata modakam sada vimukti sadakam. Dakarata modakam sada vimukti sadakam. Kaladharavatam sakam vilasilo karakshakam. Kaladharavatam sakam vilasilo karakshakam. Anayakaikanayakam vinashite pataichakam. Anayakaikanayakam vinashite pataichakam. Natashubhashunashakam namami tam vinayakam. Natashubhashunashakam namami tam vinayakam. Now,
That was going to do the same thing. Come sit.
okay. I get this. I get this. Hi, everyone.
Okay. Here we go.
Oh, just me?
No, I can follow you.
Oh.
Wait, you see a line in the wall?
Muda karata modakam. Sada vimukti sadakam. Kala daravatam sakam. Vila siloka rakshakam. Anayakai kanayakam. Vinashite badaityakam. Natashubhashunashakam. Namami tam vinayakam. Mudakarata modakam sada vimukti sadakam. Karata modakam sada. Kaladara vatam sakam filasiloka rakshakam. Kaladara vatam sakam filasiloka rakshakam. Anayakai kanayakam vinashite badaityakam. Anayakai kanayakam vinashite badaityakam. Natashubhashunashakam namami tam vinayakam. Natashubhashunashakam namami tam vinayakam.
All together. We're going to join Dawi.
Ooh.
Tell them.
We're going to do it together, so everybody's going to sing it. All right, ready? Mudakarata modakam sada vimukti sadakam kaladara patam sakam filasiloka rakshakam anayakai kanayakam vinashite badaityakam natashubhashunashakam namami tam vinayakam. Mudakarata modakam sada vimukti sadakam kaladara fatam sakam filasiloka rakshakam anayakai kanayakam vinashite badaityakam natashubhashunashakam namami tam vinayakam. Two more. Mudakarata modakam sada vimukti sadakam kaladharavatam sakam vilasiloka rakshakam anayakai kanayakam
विनाशिते बदैत्यकं नताशुभाशुनाशकं नमामि तं विनायकम्. Last one. Mudakarata mudakam sadapi mukti sadakam kaladharavatam sakam filasilokarakshakam anayakaikanayakam vinashite badaityakam natashubhashunashakam namami tam vinayakam. Angela said, notice the effect.
You're all a bunch of uncorked champagne. Go out into the world. See you next week. Thank you very much. It's a banger. Oh.